Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Origin and Cause's webinar titled Can't Touch This, the Do's and Don'ts of Emergency Services and Repairs. My name is George Costandi and I will be the controller today. If you have any issues, if you can, for some reason the microphone, you can't hear us, or the slides are frozen or something, just send us a quick note on the panel that's on your screen. There's a chat box. Just let us know if you're experiencing any technical difficulties. We're really excited to host this webinar for you guys. We just have a few pointers that we want to run through very quickly. Notice at the bottom left of the screen you can see those little icons, the fireball, the mechanical parts moving, and that little house. They're there on each slide to let you know what discipline the content is relevant to. So you know, if it's a fire and explosion related type of content, then you're going to see that little fireball, as well as a photo of the speaker, just for you guys to be able to follow. You can submit questions to us throughout the webinar in this small chat box that I'd mentioned there in the panel on your screen. If you're calling into the webinar, you could also email us at info@origin-and-cause.com. We're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, depending on how much time we have left over at the very end. If we don't get to your question by the end of the webinar, we promise to follow up with you after the fact to make sure any of the questions that you provided or have submitted are answered. And lastly, the webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website, on LinkedIn and YouTube pages, so please feel free to pass them on to your colleagues or use them in your team meetings if you wish. At the very end of this presentation, we will be sending each of you a completion certificate in a follow-up email that will be going out within 24 hours. If you're in a group right now and you haven't signed up or haven't provided your name to us in the sign-up process, please send an email to me at gcostandi, C-O-S-T-A-N-D-I, at origin, origin-and-cause, C-A-U-S-E.com, or you can go to our website and in the Ask a Question button, you click on that and just submit your name and contact information, and we'll be sure to get your completion certificate sent to you. And as soon as the webinar ends, there's going to be a little window that pops up on your screen asking you 4 feedback questions. It shouldn't take more than 15 seconds of your time, but we'd love to hear your feedback. This really helps us to find out what exactly worked, what didn't work, and how we can improve for future webinars. All right, we'll jump right into it. I'd like to introduce our speakers. Our first speaker is John Coull. He's a fire and explosion investigator, as well as the branch manager of our Mississauga office. He has over 25 years of experience specializing in structural fires, and he has over 3,100 fire and explosion investigation under his belt. He's got over 17 years of experience in the Toronto Police Service, as well as over 7 years with the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. We also have Brian James, who's our forensic engineer with over 15 years of experience specializing in mechanical engineering. Types of losses he gets involved in are vehicle-related losses, trucks and heavy equipment losses, mechanical failures, and product liability. And lastly, we have Adam Lohonyai, who is a forensic engineer with over 4 years of experience specializing in structural engineering. Losses that he gets involved in relate to building envelopes, structural assessments, repairs and failures, personal fault arrest systems, as well as rollover protection systems. So I'm going to pass over the microphone to John Coull to get us started.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be covering some do's and don'ts, and my portion of this will be specifically regarding structure fires. Now, the first do we'd like to discuss is always give specific and explicit instruction to contractors. Now this will be directed towards the adjusters here in our audience, as well as contractors who are there, to make sure that they get the right information. One of the first things we want to make sure is our scenes are boarded. The security of our fire scenes is important, not only for us to go in and do our work, but also for the follow-up work that's going to be done by adjusters and other personnel. Unauthorized access into the scene could be problematic. Not just somebody gaining access, but also about the homeowner or the insured gaining access back into that fire scene. We do not want them into that fire scene, specifically because they haven't been interviewed, and it may contaminate the interview. Having them have a look at the fire scene post-fire before they can be interviewed could be problematic. So secure the scene. Make sure that fire scene is secure. Leaving that insecure in that method could cause problems for our investigation and could cause problems later on down the road with regards to any issues that are developed as a result of this investigation. Contrary to that popular belief that yellow barrier tape on there does not keep people from entering the fire scene. Watching people around fire scenes with that yellow barrier tape, you would think it says welcome, come on in, rather than caution or fire scene. That does not stop people from entering a fire scene. It's best to be secured, and it's best to make sure that the access to that scene is totally restricted. One other issue we come across is piles of debris that end up on the outside of this house. Often fire services attend the fire scene as part of their work. They overhaul this fire scene, and debris is shoveled out from the scene and ends up on the front lawns, on the back lawns, on the driveway. And unfortunately, I've attended too many fire scenes where this debris was very quickly cleaned up by contractors. After examining this fire scene and realizing that the evidence for that fire scene quite possibly was shoveled out, and contacting the contractors, only to find out that that evidence has not only been removed from the scene, but it's been disposed of. It is important to keep that scene secure, as well as keep the items that may be on the exterior of that house secure. And to that end, covering the debris on the outside with tarps allows that evidence out there to be protected. It also allows it to be examined on site, and I'd be able to examine that those items in place as best as possible. The next item to be of concern is the electrical distribution panels. It seems that this is a common issue where after a fire scene, one of the first things done is the electrician goes in, removes the panel, and puts in a temporary panel. The original panel that was in this house had a lot of information. It could even been evidence. The removal and disposal of that panel, and now this installation of a temporary panel or a new panel with temporary breakers has now removed any evidence that we may need. There's no way the system can be checked, and there's no way we could evaluate the electrical system based on the panel. It is very important that these items be protected. So in giving some instructions, I'll make sure that the electrical system within this house is not altered prior to the examination. So make sure that as part of the security of this home, that the panel is left in place and is not altered. Our second do on our list today is to secure the evidence and make sure that secure the evidence appropriately. Anything removed from a fire scene that needs to be examined is evidence. Treat it as this evidence. It could end up in court. Treat it with the importance that it should require. If this evidence has to be removed from the scene prior to the arrival of an investigator, it is important to make sure that the evidence is logged and the custody of it is outlined. If items are removed and moved to another facility for storage, make sure that the instructions on what this evidence is to be done with it, how it's to be moved, how it's to be packaged, how it's to be stored, fully identified. A chain of custody issue could result if this is not done appropriately. But furthermore, is once this item is removed from a fire scene, it is important to store the item appropriately. Items could be damaged, irreparably damaged, if they're not stored appropriately. One of our investigators was sent to a contractor's facility in order to examine a refrigerator that was removed from a significant fire. There was concerns that this refrigerator was the cause of this fire, and the examination of this appliance was going to be very important to this case going forward. On arrival at the fire scene, or sorry, at the contractor's, he was directed to a snowbank. Apparently this refrigerator was left outside unprotected, and not only was it unprotected, it was placed in the area where snowbank was created as a result of the plowing of their lot. After the melting of the snowbank, this is what was left. This is the evidence that was left from a major loss that was required to be examined. It is quite possible that this evidence could be severely damaged, and now it's of no useful purpose, all because it was stored inappropriately. So make sure anything that is removed to any facility be treated as evidence, make sure it is stored appropriately, and make sure it is done in a timely manner. Remember, time is money. So our third do is to get your forensic expert involved as soon as you can. As soon as it has been determined that a forensic expert is needed, get them to the site, get them notified, and get the investigation going. This will help to identify evidence, to secure evidence, to get it properly examined in a timely manner, and to prevent any deterioration of this evidence. Just remember that more time that evidence is not preserved, it increases the risk of being compromised. Compromised evidence decreases your negotiating power. So make sure evidence is treated appropriately, make sure it's secured, and make sure it is secured appropriately and quickly. Compromising evidence reduces your negotiating power. The longer evidence is left in a compromised state, your negotiating power decreases. So make sure that this evidence is secured properly and secured appropriately so that you can commence your subrogation process. Our first don't on our list today is don't delay having an initial discussion with your insured. In August of 2014, this article was published where I outlined questions that were to be asked. If you haven't seen this article and would like to get a copy, please send me an email, and I will gladly forward you a copy of this article. Well, what I did in this article was identify some questions that can be asked very quickly. This is developed to be done in the format of a discussion. This is not a formal interview, it is a discussion. This is quite often the first discussion that you have with your insured on site on the day of the event. It is designed to elicit some very specific information that will help you and will help the investigator during their examination of this scene. There's only 3 questions. This should take about 15 seconds in order to get this information out, and probably the conversation should last not longer than 2 or 3 minutes. This can be done without the taking of notes. It can be done in a conversational setting, which puts the homeowner or the insured at ease, and you're having a conversation and you can ask these questions. These are the questions. What did you see? What did you do? And what did you do next? I've used these questions for many years and found that these are very, very good at eliciting specific information. I use this for the fire service, for the observations of their first responding firefighters, as well as police, and as well as witnesses. It works. Now, they don't seem to be very in-depth questions, but what they do is they actually form a specific function. If this fire that you're dealing with is a fire that is accidental, then the information supplied by the homeowner or the insured is going to be very direct as to what they saw and what they did in this event. But let's also consider that this fire may have been a fire by design. This may have been what I call the creation of an illusion of an accidental event. If this is the case, in preparation for this fire and the story, this individual has created a story and around this event and has rehearsed this story. But as typical, these stories are rehearsed from the beginning to the end. If you ask an open-ended question such as, well, what do you think happened, or what happened, you're going to get the story that has been contrived and has been rehearsed from start to finish. These questions are designed to interrupt that process. These questions are designed to go right to the middle of that story and then ask the questions which will do two things, one of which it'll disrupt the thinking pattern of this person who's developed this story. It'll also create a problem for them to try to fast forward through in their mind through the sequence that they're trying to tell you in order to get to that answer. You're more likely to get an honest answer or one that is closer to the truth than one that is contrived. So you're disrupting the potential of somebody not telling you the truth, and you're creating a roadblock for them to go ahead and tell you a whole story which has been contrived. Again, if this is somebody who's a legitimate victim of an accidental event, this will help them explain to you in a very brief scenario what happened, and you can take that information and pass it on to the investigator. So when you ask, what did you see? You're asking them what they saw and how they knew whether this was what was going on and what they had to deal with. They ask them what did they do. This will go on to tell us if they actually tried to intervene with this fire. Did they try and put it out? Or did they go and open doors and windows thinking to get the smoke out only to advance the fire spread? This is important information that we could use. So think of these questions. Now, these questions can be done not with a pad and pen in hand. This is a conversation. Once you take out a pen and a paper, people realize that this is going to be important. They're going to be very guarded in their answers. But if it's a free-flowing conversation, you're more likely to get a very relaxed and easier understood response. Our next don't is don't alter the fire scene. As you can see in this photograph, this was a fire in a closet. By the time I arrived on site, this area completely cleaned out. And as you can see, not only is a section of the floor gone, but all the debris is gone, which means the fuel for this fire is gone, but more importantly, the ignition source for this fire is gone. What can I do with this fire scene that's left with no information? Leave the fire scene as is. Don't clean it up. Let us have a look at it as it was found at the conclusion of this event. Let us evaluate all the evidence and the information from that fire scene. The other thing is not to send us information that could be prejudicial. So don't send us your notice of loss with prejudice information. The information that we need with regard to your loss is the location of the fire and the type of the fire. This will allow us to get the right expert to you as quickly as possible to get your loss investigated so you can get this loss advanced. You'll notice that in those questions, those three questions that I say that is best to ask, you're not asking opinion. You don't want anybody's opinion. I don't ask opinions of fire service. I don't ask opinion of police. I don't ask opinion of adjusters because I want facts rather than opinions. So don't give your opinion when you send in a loss to us as to what you think or what someone else thinks the cause of this fire is. It would be more important to give us instructions such as a bedroom fire or a kitchen fire or a garage fire. That is the type of information we need. And treat every file as if it's going to end up in litigation. by you putting your opinion or someone else's opinion on that notice of loss, that could end up being as part of the file and then could end up being discoverable. So it is important just to give us the basic information as what we need to do our job. So treat every file as if it's going to end up in litigation. Now to recap, security of the scene, leaving the scene unaltered, and making sure that that scene is secure and tight before we can get there is important. Don't prejudice your investigation prior to us getting there. And make sure that when we do secure equipment and secure evidence, that it's stored properly so it can be examined properly. Now that's going to conclude my portion of this, and I'm going to pass you off now to
Good afternoon. Thank you, John. I'd like to talk a little bit about automotive losses and some of the unique features of vehicle fires and their interaction and combination with structure fires. Again, kind of as an extension of what John said, securing the scene. The scene for a vehicle fire includes the vehicle and its surroundings. Don't move anything or rearrange anything. Just leave it as is, and leave the site and the scene as a unit. This one was taken care of properly. This one was fenced off. You can even see there's some additional information that's not readily available in the garage or the vehicle inside, but the vehicles in the driveway also show some additional information providing combustion, level of fire damage, wind direction, all those subtle bits and pieces of information that help us put things together. Again, in the don't move anything around, leave it as is. One of the big issues with vehicle fires in a garage is did the fire start in the vehicle or did the fire start in the garage? Which is the initiation site and which is as a result of fire spread? All of that information is still available. It's all in there. There seems to be there's an enormous desire to drag the vehicle out of the garage and examine it in the driveway. Just leave it where it is. All of that information is still remaining in there. It has to be excavated, but leave it where it is so that all of the information is available. One of the other unique features of vehicles is just the fuel load of that vehicle is different than the fuel load of a structure fire. The containment, the way it spreads, it's still fire. It still relies on the basic fire principles of ignition, fuel load, and a sequence of events. It's how it's contained and how it migrates and how it propagates and communicates with other components. In this instance, so after the fire scene gets dug out, and again, the big question is whether it was as a result of the building or whether it's as a result of the vehicle. In this instance, it's actually neither. It was an extension cord that was used on one of the tools that was being used for the restoration of this vehicle. So if this vehicle gets dragged out, all of that information goes out with it, and that opportunity to understand the actual cause and ignition mechanism is lost. Now, in the sense of a vehicle, this broad definition of vehicle basically covers anything with wheels on it. The fire scene or the loss location is not just contained to the enclosure of a building. This particular tractor was at the loss location, and there's an enormous amount of value and information that's available at the loss location. Often I get photographs just from cell phones or small videos from cell phones, and people say to me that they're kind of shaky, they're not very good. I ask for them anyways. What that does, it tells me a whole bunch of information, environmentally specific information, smoke is going straight up, I can tell that there's not much of a wind influencing the burn patterns and consumption. It also gives me a relative position of the glow or where the fire initiates. Even if they catch it later on in the stages, it still gives me an opportunity to backstep and recreate a fire timeline at least to the point of discovery. As you can see, on the opposite side of this tractor tells an entirely different tale. The tires on this are consumed much more so in the center portion between the two axles. Again, this is at the loss location. If this tractor was flatbedded and rolled out of here, those tires would have been rotated and all that information would have been lost. All this positional information is valuable in terms of the burn patterns and fire damage, because the fuel load in vehicles is a little bit different and not as constructed or not as regular as in structure fires. Also have a bunch of information that's available in this photograph showing the consumption of the operator cab, and again this general burn pattern. I can follow this back to an area of fire origin. One of the other unique properties of this particular loss location is, again, since it's at the loss location, I get the scorch patterns and the heat damage to the crop on the field. That tells me exactly what way the wind is blowing at this location. I'm not relying on general Environment Canada data. I know exactly where the wind is blowing at this time, at the time of the fire, at this location. I can also get an indication of how strong that's blowing, and again, I can backstep that through the timeline and through the fire patterns and consumption and get back to an area of fire origin and how this fire has progressed from that area of fire origin and moved through all of the combustible materials. I realize that because vehicles are on wheels, they don't always get examined at the loss location. However, I put together an article that is available on our website that references a lot of the background information that is extremely useful. Again, if there's any photographs that are available by cell phone or videos taken at the loss location or shortly after discovery, they become incredibly valuable. Some of the background information also, again, some of the unique properties of vehicles is they're not necessarily stationary at a loss location. They're intended to roll and bounce and vibrate down the road. Different conditions represent different status of circuits and the subsystems that are in there that form these vehicles. That all provides additional information that we can extract and again step back in time and create that fire timeline, getting back to what actually happened. Also be aware of spoliation of evidence. Don't eliminate the possibility of other parties' involvement. This is especially particular or very widespread when it comes to vehicles. Again, this vehicle definition is a very broad umbrella definition of anything from basically go-karts to buses to heavy equipment. It's entirely possible that a vehicle, especially a highway truck or any other component, will be made up of multiple assemblies from different manufacturers and different people's involvement. This includes chassis manufacturer, an engine manufacturer, which may not necessarily be the chassis manufacturer. They may be married together with common wiring. An upfit manufacturer or bodybuilder, if there's any cargo areas on it or if there's snow plows or any additional equipment on it. Any added equipment such as radios or GPS logging equipment. And then some fleets also, depending on how they finance things, they'll have a distributor or a leasing company. And again, depending on the size of the fleet or depending on the size of the operation, they may do some of the maintenance in-house and they may farm out some of that maintenance to other shops, depending on how busy they are or whatever their shop policies are. And then on top of that, you've got the end user. In the case of highway trucks, you may also have a trailer and a contents load in that trailer, and if that just happens to be backed up towards a building, now you've got 8 or 9 parties that are potentially involved in a loss. Again, just be aware of spoliation of evidence. Don't eliminate the possibility of other parties' involvement. If there's a multi-party examination, it's entirely possible that you'll start working through and examining the site or the contents and the item, and you may get to a junction where the standards are very clear. The standards are ASTM 860 and 1188. Once you get to that junction where it's possible that there's somebody else's involvement, you have to stop, preserve the evidence, again, as discussed by John Coull. You've got to secure that evidence and invite the other parties to attend. In this multi-party examination example is a bus in a depot, and you can see the incident bus in the background. There's a lot of hands that go into putting together a vehicle of this nature and of this complexity. At this examination, there was approximately 20 people that signed in on the attendee list. We all had to go through things together, and we all had to work our way through the site. When John mentioned boarding up the loss location, I don't think this is the absolute intention. Be aware of spoliation of evidence. This was a building with about 12 vehicles in it, and all that was left when I was retained was this shed built around one of the vehicles. This is an opposite side view of it, and again, you can imagine how much information is missing that's contained in all of those vehicles, all of the building wiring, all the bits and pieces and components that are simply just not there. There isn't a complete picture. It's missing an entire section of elements. Number 3 is take photos of the electrical breaker as soon as possible. Again, as John mentioned, it contains valuable information. It provides a capture in time of the status of progression of the fire. In NFPA 921, it's referred to as arc mapping, but this provides a valuable piece of information that we use to help us sort through and rearrange all the bits and pieces of the puzzle and create an overall picture of clarity. Also, the original panel in this instance is a relatively new installation, and you can see just the general style, arrangement. However, in some older houses, you can also tell if there's been any renovations or different styles of wiring. Again, taking photos of the electrical breakers provides us, while these are subtle nuances or subtle bits and pieces of information, they're key elements. Not only do they tell us the status of the breakers, whether they're on or off or tripped, whether they were involved in the fire, but they also tell us, it also gives us the opportunity to look and see what style of breaker, whether they are GFCI or whether they are appropriate size in rating for that particular circuit. I'd like to hand you over to Adam now for structural losses.
All right, so moving on to the structural losses part of the webinar here. We'll be going over 3 do's and 3 don'ts. So do it right the first time. Make Mike Holmes proud. A repair that introduces a building envelope defect will cause serious damage in the future. And so structural repairs to the roof or the exterior walls, these things involve the building envelope. And types of claims where you might encounter this is weight of snow, hail damage, fire damage, vehicle impact. And so when the building envelope is involved, you have to make sure it gets fixed properly, because you're risking subsequent calls regarding additional related damage. I've seen too many cases where a bit of work is done on a wall or a roof, and then a few months later, the insured's reporting problems like condensations or leaks or mold, and it's because the original repair wasn't done properly. I can remember one case. It was a vehicle impact. We had to open it up to examine the framing. Turned out there wasn't really any structural damage, just a bit of damage to the exterior, but when they put back the vapor barrier, they didn't seal it up properly, and they introduced a condensation problem. So, simple things like vapor barrier repair, you got to tape it up with the proper tape, or simply replace. It's not that expensive to buy poly or tape. It saves a lot of money compared to having to replace moldy wood or rotten wood after the fact. In this image on the slide here, we've got an attic. There was a bad reno at some point, and we've got mold growing due to condensation in the wintertime. Next, do request drawings and renovation history. This information can be very valuable to us. It's better for the investigation to have drawings. Homeowners today, it's becoming more and more common to actually have a copy of the drawings. In older buildings, it's unusual, but it doesn't hurt to ask for those drawings because it can help us identify where any renovations have taken place. It can also reduce the amount of time we are spending on site, because we don't have to measure every little detail in order to prepare permit drawings. Knowing that renovation history is also important, because too often people will inadvertently damage their homes when they renovate. And knowing that history beforehand will help us identify conditions on site that are either pre-existing or unrelated, because I've been to many files where some sort of failure has been attributed to something like weight of snow or construction vibration or firefighting water, and then it turned out to be caused by a previous renovation. Next, do make the building warm and dry, and do it quickly. If it helps, pretend the building is a baby. If it's not warm and dry, you're going to hear about it. So whether it's from flooding or a burst pipe or firefighting, the water has to be considered. It's very damaging, and rapid response to remove it can sometimes be the difference between replacing a few wet finishes or a very costly structural or foundation repair. Most people don't think about the possible damaging effect of water after a fire. Especially in the winter time, that water freezes in the basement and it can heave the slab or foundation walls. And foundations are very expensive. They are usually the most expensive part of the building. It takes a long time to do foundation work. So it's worth your while to get the place heated if you can, and protect the foundation from heaving in water release events during the winter. Also, something of an emerging problem, because we're using more and more engineered lumber in buildings. And engineered lumber is basically, they take small bits of wood and glue them all together to make a bigger component. And this stuff is more moisture sensitive than traditional lumber. So things like OSB, I-joists, LVL beams, they are all sensitive to moisture. LVL beams, which in the image there's a beam running from top right to bottom left, kind of looks like a really thick piece of plywood. These things will swell up permanently when they get too wet, and that permanent swelling can damage structural connections. And so getting it dry so that you avoid that could be the difference between replacing an entire floor or just replacing some damaged finishes. Similar with these I-joists, which are running from top left to bottom right in the image. When these things get saturated with water, they can be irreparably damaged no visible sign at first. You can dry them out and they look perfectly fine, but then you have a long-term problem where these things start to sag quite noticeably. So it's important to get them dry quickly. In some cases, there's not much you can do. You can't get rid of flood water when the flood's ongoing, but if you can dry them out right away after firefighting, it's definitely worth your while, because these joists otherwise would have to be replaced. Don't disturb badly damaged structures. So a structure can be very severely damaged and yet remain standing, and safety needs to be priority one. So you can't assume simply because it's standing it's okay to work around. That's kind of a faulty reasoning. Every structure that has ever collapsed was standing until the moment before its collapse. So I've had files where the roofs were so badly burned that the recommendation is to demolish the roof and make sure it doesn't collapse on anyone. If that's not an option, we can erect a false work structure or something. And just because if it's really badly burned, you can't be nailing on pieces of wood to try and reinforce the structure. Next, don't core into concrete without determining what's underneath. In this image, we've got it's a pretty severe example, but there was flooding here. It undermined a slab, and so we're looking actually underneath right now. And there is stuff underneath slabs like pipes for sewer pipe or water distribution, heating lines, and power lines. And on this sort of file, we don't always have the advantage of being able to see an obvious root underneath the slab. We have to scan it and core it. And so when you need to core, you need to identify the hidden hazards. So here we have a technician scanning before he cores. This is a little ground penetrating radar, and he's just looking for anomalies in the radar readout. And because striking an underground or embedded line is very expensive, it's also possibly life-threatening if you hit a power line. So it's a slight additional cost to do the scan, and you'll save yourself the potential headache of these additional repairs caused by the coring. And this is just an example of what you might find in a slab. So this is on the left, nicely finished floor, and on the right you can see very tight coils of in-floor heating system. If you didn't know that was there and you cored into it, it would be an expensive repair to repair the heating hose, as well as the cleanup for the glycol that would leak all over the place. And finally, don't cut corners. This goes hand in hand with doing it right the first time. So engineered products like I-joists, glue-lam beams, metal plate connected trusses, these are all things that should be evaluated by an engineer, even if the damage looks really negligible to you, because these things are designed and manufactured with a very specific set of assumptions and conditions in mind. And that slight bit of damage that looks insignificant could actually affect those assumptions. So don't risk covering up a defect to save on engineering services. Make sure that it's assessed and that you're getting it, you're keeping the place safe. And along that same line, don't modify an engineered product without an engineer's repair. I'm going to pick on trusses for a bit because these seem to be a popular thing to modify without an engineer. I've seen far too many of these cut or modified or shored incorrectly, and it can be very damaging to trusses, and it's kind of scary at times because a bad repair, it can be worse than no repair. You can actually make the problem worse. So make sure you get an engineer if any of these things, trusses, I-joists, need a repair or a shoring job. Basically, don't touch the trusses without an engineer. And with that, I will move on to the question period.
Thank you, Adam. So just a reminder, on the panel on your screen that's hosting the webinar, you can see there's a little tiny section that says chat. So you can click on, or actually there's a questions section. So you can click on that and you can submit any questions you wish. We have a couple here that have been submitted, so please please send in your submissions now. We're just going to go through a few of them. So I have a question here for Brian relating to vehicle losses. The question is, how do you examine a vehicle that has been moved?
Again, ideally, we get to look at it at the loss location. The reality is they're vehicles and they're going to get towed or they're going to get moved to a wrecking yard. That's where the background information and that loss location information is incredibly valuable, even if it is just some cell phone pictures. Trying to find out, or at least find out where the vehicle was, what the cross streets were, whether they're traveling north, southbound, whatever direction they're headed. And then we can backtrack and get environmental data. That's the best we can do if the vehicle's been moved. And again, that background information, the observations, what did they see, what did they do, what did they do next, or what did they prevent, when did they make the 911 call if they're at the side of the road. That gives us all that information so that we can, again, step back in time and recreate that fire timeline and match it up to the consumption that's on the vehicle.
Great, thank you. All right, I have a question here for John. All right, the question is, this relates to fire and explosions. What's better, boarding up a house or having security guard it?
Well, there's benefits to both. Now, the one thing about boarding up a premises, it's going to be secure as best you can. It doesn't prevent people from unauthorized access. Unfortunately, I've attended scenes where people have forced their way back into a house, whether it's the homeowner or other people, but if it's not guarded, it's left vulnerable. The one benefit of guarding a scene and leaving it open, it allows the house to ventilate. Some of the trapped-in gases and vapors that will develop inside that house from being boarded up are allowed to leave the building. Or it gives us a better area and site to work in. And also with the ambient light that is generated because of open windows and open doorways, it allows us to work inside that premises in a little bit better conditions. They both have their benefits. I don't know if one's better than the other. I would think security might be a little more costly, but depending on your site and the type of loss, this may be important.
Great, thank you very much, John. Another one here for Adam in relation to structural losses. Is there a moisture threshold in engineered products? Is there a certain reading, any readings above a certain threshold requires rush drying?
Basically, when engineered wood gets completely submerged, you don't have much time at all. So for practical purposes, it needs to be replaced. But if it's just been doused and gets really wet from that, then the goal is to get it down to below 20% moisture content as a rough guideline within a week. And 20% moisture content is it's kind of the magic number for mold, rot, all sorts of problems. So get it down below that number.
Great, thank you. I have another question here. It wasn't stated for anyone in particular, but I'll have John answer it. I think it might be relevant to his line of work. The question is, you tell me not to move things, but what about snow or rain? I can take a photo of the site, but in the snow, it's going to be difficult to see.
Well, that's true. Unfortunately, we have to work with what we get. And there certainly is occasions between the time of a loss and the time we get on site that there, or you get on site, that there's been snowfall. And we have to do the best we can. It is not uncommon to use blowers in order to remove snow from a scene in order to examine it. But if you get a snow-covered scene and you have to work with what you have, we will take whatever we can get and use the information, but we have to account for it and we have to deal with it.
Brian, does this relate to your line of work as well? So the question is, you're stating not to move things, but what about snow and rain? I can take a photo of the site but if in the snow, it's going to be difficult to see.
Exactly, as John stated, we've used blowers to blow out, basically leaf blowers to blow out fire scene and get rid of all the snow and leave us with only the bits and pieces and the equipment that's remaining, and it does a great job. That's the best that we can do on the site.
Great, thanks. So this one will just be an open mic. Any of you guys can jump in. The insured has an obligation to prevent further damage. So how do you get around that matter, as those steps may alter the scene?
Well, it's best to try to preserve the premise as best as we can without any further damage. I understand that this sometimes can be difficult, and sometimes it can't even be done. But again, getting people there as quick as possible can mitigate some of this damage and subsequent deterioration. So it's just a matter of getting people on site as quickly as possible and dealing with what we have and trying our best in order to preserve what's there.
Great. So for everyone that has submitted questions, thank you very much. If we haven't answered the questions, or if you have, if you would like to hear from someone else and their perspective, if it was more so focused on one discipline than the other, please feel free to send me an email, and I'll make sure that I get the right person in front of you, and you guys can have that conversation. So I just want to go very quickly over our services. So who exactly is Origin and Cause? Okay, good second here. So we've been established for almost 25 years, and we have a large group of experts across Canada. We have 10 locations in Ancaster, Mississauga, Kingston, Ottawa, Sudbury, London, Windsor, Halifax, Winnipeg, and Calgary. So it's something that a lot of our clients are giving us great feedback, the fact that we have a huge geographical spread. In the event that there's a loss in Windsor, for example, they don't have to contact someone from out of town. We have someone out there to come and take a look at the loss and provide a quick response. So this is something very important to us, to make sure that we have as big of a geographical spread as possible so that we can be on site immediately. If you call us, then we try to make sure that we're out there within the same day. It's not like you have to wait a few days. So that's something extremely important. We have a great team of experts with various types of expertise trying to respond specifically to the loss requirements. Our protocol, it's a quick overview. Pretty much right when we get a new assignment, we do an immediate on-site examination, and we contact the adjuster or whoever has hired us, whoever it may be. We contact them immediately after, provide them with a verbal or email update, and also provide a preliminary report within 24 hours from the time of our site visit. Then, of course, if there's any additional investigation required, then we do provide a report at the very end of the investigation, and that's usually the process. But it's a very quick process. We try to keep our clients very informed, and this preliminary report that we provide within 24 hours has been a great success. We're getting great feedback from our clients saying, it's great to know what's going on right when you go out. That we'll be able to provide you with certain, or not coverage information. We can help you in determining coverage and determining what is required in your file. So a quick overview of our services. We do a lot of fire and explosion investigation. Within the fire investigation group, we also have a canine unit. So on the left, you can see Cliff. He actually is a bomb detection dog, and he's snooping through a loss trying to figure out if there's any explosive of any sort. On the right, there's Smoke, who is our accelerants dog, and he can sniff out around 20 different types of accelerants. It's actually fascinating to see the dogs work, and they've done some pretty incredible things and helped us in our investigations incredibly. When an accelerant is used in a particular loss, you don't necessarily smell it. All you smell is the smell of the fire, and these dogs have an incredible skill that they're able to really pick out if there's any added variables in the particular loss. Also, we have fire department litigation services, so we do a lot of work for a lot of legal work for our clients to try to assist them with, of course, responding to any legal issues that may arise. If, say, for example, you've been approached from another party with a engineer's report, we get involved a lot of time to review the opponent's engineering report to verify the facts and to provide our opinion as well. As you know, Adam was speaking earlier, we do provide structural engineering services, so any structural failures or anything like that, that's something that we do get involved in, and we've recently opened up this structural unit in 2015. It's been an incredible success, and our clients are giving us great feedback. We also have the electrical engineering unit that focuses on anything related to electronics or electrical failures, whether it be in structural failures or structural losses, industrial losses, commercial losses. We're always there to try to assist our clients to determine if there's any electrical root causes. Part of our electrical engineering unit is alarm system analysis. So our president, actually, Mazen Habash, who's in this picture, is looking at a alarm system panel and trying to find out if there's any activity that is useful for the investigation. A lot of times people will say that our alarm system was armed during a break and enter, for example, or a theft, and we're able to verify those facts. Also, we have the mechanical engineering unit. They do anything from go-karts, as Brian was saying, all the way up to large 18-wheelers and heavy equipment. They focus a lot on mechanical failures in anything that has moving parts as a potential to fail. And when there is a failure and there is opportunity for subrogation, or if you're looking for a determination of coverage, the mechanical engineering group is there to help you out. We also have a materials and metallurgical engineering group. So in this picture, you see our materials and metallurgical engineer, Dina Mate, looking at a particular component, trying to determine its failure mode. It seems like he's measuring something there, but a lot of his work is focused on sprinkler systems, different types of plumbing connections, various types of toilet failures, flex braided hoses, etc. And he gets involved a lot with subrogation units to determine if there's any material failures or even design failures in order for them to pursue subrogation with any liable parties. Lastly, we have our chemical engineering unit. This is actually, in the photo, is our vice president, Richard Curran, looking at a couple of substances to determine, I think in this particular case, was a aftershave loss that we received. So very interesting stuff that our chemical engineering unit gets involved in. You could also go on our website, which I want to just quickly direct you guys to. So it's origin-and-cause.com. On the left, you could see there's you can go through our services, our experts, resources, and of course learn about how we give back. We have Origin and Cause for Others as a avenue to give back to the community. On our website, you can see all the various resources. We do provide a monthly newsletter to our clients with fresh new content. John mentioned an article that he had put together, as well as Brian James. You could see other titles including the 5 common culprits in residential electrical fires everyone needs to be aware of, and most recently our last article, what is the most common appliance failure? Experts say dryers. So it's a very interesting topics, very light and quick reads, but we're getting great feedback from our clients about them. Thank you again for everyone for your time and for coming out. We really appreciate any feedback that you could provide us. As mentioned before, everyone's going to receive a completion certificate follow-up email. If you did not sign up yourself and you're part of a group, please email us with your contact information and your name so that we can get a completion certificate written up for you. As mentioned before, when the webinar ends, a window will pop up with 4 feedback questions. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much and have a great day.